Hello and welcome to another episode of Chuchu Reviews, the show where I take 4 random unrelated records and I stick them in the blender and then I review them, I rate them and I rank them. Simplicity achieved. 3 of the records this week were plucked from the comments, so if you have an album you'd like to see featured, drop a suggestion and who knows, you might just get lucky. So let's introduce this week's combatants in alphabetical order. Firstly, we have Death of a Minor TV Celebrity by the Candyskins from 1998, which was nominated by Tailtube. Next we have Darklands by the Jesus and Mary Chain from 1987, which was nominated by Stee. Then we have Hopes and Fears by Keane from 2004, which was nominated by Sundry Free. Finally we have A Maximum High by Shed 7 from 1996, which is my personal contribution to the dance. So now that the battle lines have been drawn, let's be complete rankers and rank up a storm. This is Chuchu Reviews. So, coming in last this week we have A Maximum High by the Britpop band Shed 7 from 1996, which was their second LP and also their biggest hit, selling 500,000 copies in the UK. And this album is kind of a microcosm for everything right and everything wrong about Britpop. A lot of this record is unbelievably catchy and it features a clutch of true god-level pop songs. But it also has its fair share of lazy, zero quality control filler on it too. Your average Britpop record, ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell right there. So the good, nay great stuff first, which is basically the entire A-side of this record. Opener Getting Better is all definitely maybe style walls of gnarly distortion and swaggering energy. Magic Streets has a distinctly Smithian lilt to it that immediately appeals. Where Have You Been Tonight is a barnstormingly catchy slice of stomping Britpop. The band's biggest hit, Going for Gold, is amazing with its arpeggiated guitar jangle and blasting horns. It's a genuine fist in the air sing-along classic, while On Standby turns on the anthemic balladry to great effect and is a slickly emotive banger. Add into that the late album rough and tumble pop of Bully Boy and you have a clutch of tunes that truly shoot for the stars. Also, Lies rocks pretty hard too. But then sadly we have to swap out the positive hat for a dunce cap because there's also some guff on here too. Out by My Side is a folky tune that seems only half finished and also sees singer Rick Witter woefully off key. Ladyman sounds like Morrissey if you stripped away every iota of wit and subtlety that he has. The track is just like so on the nose that it gets more crass every time I hear it. While the likes of This Day Was Ours and Falling From the Sky are textbook blustery filler tracks. I mean, someone somewhere is missing a couple of B-sides. But those tracks are masterpieces compared to the worst song on here, which is the 8-minute closing title track A Maximum High, which comes off as a totally subpar, swaggering White Boy Oasis knockoff. I mean, it is profoundly awful. I mean, the lyrics just speak for themselves. I could fax you at work, and pick you up in my murk, and dig deep in your dirt. It's the in thing to do, so suck on this. And I'm making my lists, and I'm topping the hits. I mean, I gotta stop there or the genius will overwhelm me and I'll have a fucking brain aneurysm. But yeah, despite sinking my claws in a bit, I still love this record. Objectively, it has problems, but subjectively it's on a nostalgic pedestal that's pretty hard to knock down. I mean, aside from the closer, even the weaker tracks I have some buried love for, and whenever I listen to this I'm suddenly 16 years old again, and admittedly generous 4 stars. Next up we have Death of a TV Celebrity by the Candyskins, which was their 4th and final LP from 1998. And yeah, the Candy Who's? Like, I'd never even heard of this band prior to this nomination, but apparently this Oxford-based band was one of the first to embrace the baggy genre back in the early 90s. And although none of their albums ever charted in the UK, they did at least have one top 40 single during the Britpop era. All the facts I just noted make me question my own sanity though. Firstly, this band are from the UK but sound distinctly American. Secondly, this has about as much in common with baggy as a pair of skin-tight jeans. And lastly, that they had so little success is just odd, as their sound on this record is so chart-friendly that it should be balls deep up the pop chart's ass. In regards to this LP's musical stylings, I'm kind of torn on it. What we have here is a heavy-set power pop record that has skate rock and emo overtones. It sounds a bit like bands such as Blink-182 and Brand New, but crucially it predates those bands. Hell, this predates the breakout of Feeder into the mainstream, a band that also shares easy comparisons. So I guess I should give this band plaudits for being ahead of the curve, as a scant few years later this type of music would be hitting the zeitgeist. The reason I'm torn, however, is that skate rock just fucking sucks so bad. But because this isn't a case of jumping on the bandwagon, and also because the record is generally consistent and it is obviously trying hard to conjure up some genuine emotions, I'm going to forgive its proximity to a genre that I have very little love for. Even though the majority of these songs do use the same tactic and almost always have that same guitar crunch lift off in the chorus. I mean, let's not beat around the bush here, this is not the most inventive record in the world. Or is it? I mean, it does predate emo and skate rock, like I said. Now I'm confused again, but at least there was Green Day before this pioneering this crap. Anyway, this is mostly good power pop stuff, with almost all the tracks hitting a good quality level. Highlights include the opening single, Feed It, which has a nice build up to its explosively catchy pop-punk chorus. It's a Sign has a deafening heaviness that impresses. I mean, that's a monster sound for 1998. Loser Friendly is an epic punky ballad with an immediately emotive melody and a swooning anthemia to it. Summer Under London has a buzzing skate rock energy and an instant catchiness, while A Song is beautiful with its pulsing rhythm and bittersweet balladry that lands somewhere between Oasis and Blur. In fact, the only song that truly goes off the rails here is Teenage Suicide, which features the usual kind of half-baked electronic blips and bloops and synths that dogged late 90s music, as well as really cringy lyrics that are way too on the nose and far too desperate to be meaningful to 15-year-old kids. But yeah, that one pot hole aside, and this is a damn fine power pop record that totally predicted where pop rock was about to go. So, the Candy Who's, that's the Candyskins. They won my respect with this record. I should probably check out more of their stuff. 4 stars. Next up we have Darklands by the Jesus and Mary Chain, which was their second LP from 1987. Now, the Jesus and Mary Chain are an undeniably iconic band. Their debut, Psycho Candy, pretty much single-handedly invented the shoegaze genre. But as I said on my 1985 Album of the Year list, Psycho Candy is a record that I respect more than I genuinely love. So if you're there thinking that this follow-up Darklands must get a 5-star rating because, you know, it's just a fucking Jesus and Mary Chain, sorry to tell you, I just don't like this band that much. Which is odd, right? I mean, after all, I like shoegaze, I like post-punk, I like Echo and the Bunnymen, I like The Cure, and the Jesus and Mary Chain sit right in the middle of all that good stuff. It's fushigi, as the Japanese would say, mysterious. But the good news is that I actually like this more than Psycho Candy. I think the songs here are more fleshed out and more melodic, they rely less on overbearing distortion and reverb to get their point across. I mean, don't get me wrong, that stuff is still there, but it's tamer and more diluted, which is a plus for me personally. But it's still not perfect. The Jesus and Mary Chain are, for want of a better phrase, a bit of a one-trick pony as far as I'm concerned. The band's overall sound is pretty great, but they rarely deviate from it. I mean, the group basically have only 3 songs. The fast one, the ballad, and the gothic dirge. Within that framework there might be some different chords and whatnot, but the songs all end up sounding too similar to each other, such is the unvarying nature of their sonic palette. Likewise, the singer's melody doesn't really change much across these songs. I mean, you wouldn't believe how many times my brain tricked me into believing he was about to break into the chorus of Just Like Honey. That said, I do like the majority of the songs here on Darklands. Individually speaking, the only real problems I would have are with the last 2 songs. On the Wall sounds like every Jesus and Mary Chain song ever and it's just kinda there, while Strip Back Closer, About You, is simply uninteresting and the record definitely could have used one last epic fuzz out. On the flip side, opener Darklands dovetails into melodic balladry and is lovely despite its proximity to Just Like Honey. Happy When It Rains and Fall are nice catchy rockers but are also in truth a bit too derivative of Echo and the Bunnymen. I mean, they're still probably receiving cease and desist letters. Deep One Perfect Morning and 9 Million Rainy Days are nice gothic dirges that could have easily sat on The Cure's Pornography. Cherry on Top is a decent ballad with a bit of a jangle flourish and some more sprightly vocal work than usual, while album highlight April Skies has a euphoric and emotive pop energy to it, letting the sun creep in around the edges of the black clouds that pervade the record. So yeah, I obviously have some reservations about the Jesus and Mary chain, but I like this record. Do I absolutely love it? No. But I do like it, and I do dig the band's talent for creating a very cohesive, very gothic atmosphere. And their overall sound, whilst definitely repetitive, is still great and instantly emotive. 4 stars. So, the Chuchu Review's gold medal this week is going to go to Hopes and Fears by Keane, which was the band's debut LP from 2004. And Keane's hook, at least at this early point in their career, was having no guitars in their sound, with keyboardist Tim Rice-Oxley taking lead with his synthesizers and making them sound as close to guitars as possible. Which begs the inevitable question, why? If you're going to spend your time and effort to engineer your keyboards to sound just like guitars, why not just use a guitar? By their third LP, the band had decided to do exactly that, but here we have keyboard-only Keane peddling an album that was hugely successful in the UK, spawning several top 10 singles and hitting number 1 on the album chart, thus denying Morrissey his chance to take the top spot with his comeback album, You Are the Quarry. Those cherubic-looking motherfuckers, how dare they? But you can't be too mad at them. Well, I can, that's why I currently have Tom Chaplin chained up in my basement, subsisting solely on a diet of my mother's used edible panties. But most other people can't be too bad, as Hopes and Fears is a pristine pop record stuffed full of great songs, clean spacious melodies and a general atmosphere of heartbreak and crushing loneliness. In fact, there's not really much to complain about here. If I were to nitpick, I'd say that its runtime of 50 minutes is a touch too long, and that a couple of the obviously weaker tunes such as Your Eyes Open or Untitled One could have been cut to basically rectify that. But even those tracks aren't particularly bad. In actuality, they're harmlessly pleasant, but are simply of the atmospherically laid back and relaxed variety, thus they're not really necessary on what is otherwise a pretty direct pop record. Highlights include much of everything else. Opener Somewhere Only We Know is a fantastic ballad with a stomping rhythm, a gorgeous Smithian melody and a wonderful sense of epic romanticism and world-weary resignation. Everybody's Changing is an awesome crystalline pop tune that sounds like it flew in straight from 1987. The sing-along melody of the chorus is just absolutely killer. The likes of Bend and Break, Can't Stop Now and This Is the Last Time have an entertaining thump to their pacey rough and tumble synth pop. We Might As Well Be Strangers is beautiful with Chaplin's ascending vocals and the track's short runtime leaving you wanting more. On a Day Like Today gradually collects more and more emotion to its grand balladry as the layers of shoegazy effects amplify, while closer Bed-Shaped shimmers with romantic loss and a huge stadium-filling chorus. My favourite off of this though is She Has No Time, which is all about that creeping sadness and the feeling of being really miserable on a long walk home through the drizzling rain. It's a really nice atmospherically worked synth dirge that bullseyes the emotion it's going for. So yeah, this is a great debut from Keane that is flush with memorable tunes and tender emotions. 4.5 stars. And that's another episode of Chuchu Reviews in the bag. Of course, I know that you probably rank these differently, so why not sound off in the comments section and tell me which one would win for you, and why not drop a nomination while you're there too. Remember to like, share, subscribe and all that other kind of YouTube jazz. Make sure to take care of yourself, but most importantly, just keep on ranking.